meeting has been provided to the news media and in a public notice posted at City Hall in the city of Burlington, New Jersey, at the Keeping Recreation Center, 522 Wood Street, Burlington, as required by law. Bill 1975, 231. It is also posted at burlington.nj.org. We ask that the public hold questions and comments until the public portion, unless organized by the chair. Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reinhardt. Here. Sinaprawa.
Here.
Caruso. Here. James.
Here.
And Worth and Lucy are absent. Mary probably won't make it. She's still at school in Camden. And Murray had to do an event tonight at the end, so we won't be seeing him as treasurer. Okay. Adjournment time.
I'd like to make a motion, 9 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, treasurer's report we don't have. No Murray was emceeing for Chris Seiler, Citizen of the Year last night. He had a big event at the end tonight. So I didn't receive, did you get anything from him? No. Didn't get anything?
Did Mary give you any correspondence or anything from the post office box?
No.
That post office box is stuffed too.
Is it really?
I just happened to be in there today because,
What's the number, 114?
yeah, 114. But if you don't have the key, they're not gonna let you in.
Yeah.
So you gotta get the key from them. I just happened to know because I went to go get a post office box
Yeah.
and I just looked at 114 and I could see it was stuffed. So.
Okay.
I'll make sure it gets empty tomorrow.
Good, thanks, Sean.
I mean, it could be junk, who knows? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I get a lot of junk, and I get a lot of stuff to the wrong people.
Yeah, I know, and I'm getting a PO box, and I'm kind of hoping they don't do that with my stuff for my business.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. We'll get time on 9. Secretary's report, you have the minutes in front of you. If you could, sorry, I'm actually going to email them this morning. Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the 10/23/2014 board meeting.
Second.
On the question.
Yeah, I think there's just one typo, second, where it says Caruso and Prower made motion. It says ended by Mary Worth. I think it should be second.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I said.
Thanks. Yes. Okay. On the question, anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mary in the last couple of days, but.
I seen him earlier, he didn't pass anything over to me.
Okay. Public portion. Minutes, please state your name and address.
Recognized.
Let me know.
Michael Zalot, I had some questions that I was going to direct to the treasurer, but perhaps the president could answer them, or if not, we can always bring them up next meeting. One, I wanted to know if anything was being done about an audit. You mentioned the cost. They have the senior volunteers who have backgrounds in business that would volunteer to do that. Has anything, as far as you know, Mr. President, been done on obtaining an audit?
As far as I know, as far as I know, it was audited by the accountant and the IRS for the reinstatement of the 501c3, but I can confirm that with Mr. Sunstein. So, you know, we have a clean slate to this, you know, past month at this point. As far as an independent audit or something else, I mean, I figure the IRS and an accountant are pretty good. Does anybody else have any feelings on that?
I think probably what we're looking for, especially for grants, is actually something on paper, an audit that's put on paper that the books have been audited from such a date to such a date and everything is. I think that's what you'll need for grants. It'll have to state the dates of the audit, correct?
Yeah.
The beginning date and the end date.
Okay, my concern is that there's been 4 different treasurers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of change around. It
Right.
should have an
You're
audit.
talking about the RSVP program out of the college, right? Where they do that for free?
They have a senior program that does it, senior volunteers such as Tom Flatley.
Yeah, that was that RSVP program.
RSVP,
College,
yes.
Yeah. It's an RSVP program that, I guess they're all retired lawyers. And they,
They're retired senior volunteer professionals, so it's all sorts of professionals.
okay.
So they might
Well, we
have,
would need a CPA.
yeah, but they might have other professionals too that might be helpful.
Right.
Thank you for that. I also would like to inquire if any contact was made to obtain the carousel money, which would be used for the scholarships.
Yeah, that dude, I seen that somewhere. I think it was on Facebook. The guy said that they were gonna be forwarding them on.
Yeah, I think I did see some. I think it was on the
It
advocates
was
page.
on the advocates.
I don't know if it came in, that's what I'm asking. Did the
Oh, the
money come
money
in?
hasn't came in.
As far as I know, it hasn't, but I haven't
It could
talked to
be.
Murray about it.
It could be in that box.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I do know that he's got a thing with Doan Academy tonight, so maybe something will be said and done there.
Okay, thank you on that. I'm wondering if our treasurers had time to prepare a proposed budget for next year. This is something that we had talked about doing. I prepared one in 2011, showing expenses as expected expenses and expected income. I was wondering if anything was done on that.
I highly doubt it, but I wouldn't know if it was, but I can certainly ask him.
Okay, we're going so quick today. I've got a couple more and I'll be very quick with them. Has there been proposed, beside the big plan which is going to be discussed later, I had a question about that. Has there been anything else proposed to raise funds for the board use rather than a scholarship?
As far as the carousel,
No, anything, any type of.
No, I'm waiting on a letter for it to, a letter that Mr. Sunstein, I would have hoped I had tonight, so I can approach Garrity's for a give back night, and that would went into the general funds.
Okay, I would like to remind the board that the C&M Auctioneers, which is my business, still is accepting donations to auction for the board, give that money there. So if anybody still knows anybody that wants to donate, please let me know. My next sale is December the 1st. One last question, and then I'll be finished here. Since the board has not have a developer, This would probably necessitate, I believe, another RFP. And I was wondering if any grants have been attempted to be obtained in order to provide for the monies for the RFP. The last time, one single ad ran us $4,000 in the New York Times, plus the other expenses. And I was wondering if any grants have been applied for. And thank you.
We might be able to cover that in the grant section of today's meeting.
Do you have a separate grant section, or should I call them?
You can talk, actually, we had the old business, but is that it for public portion?
Oh, you guys talk?
I got a couple of things. Jamie Zalot, 506 Locust Avenue. Deb brought up the RSVP. I'm not sure if there would be anybody available that would have the right type of knowledge, but the board needs some social marketing, I think. I've been doing I've had a little bit of free time. I've been doing some Twitter and a little bit on Tumblr. I haven't been on Facebook a lot. And I've been looking how people market themselves on social media. And there's a very distinct pattern to it. And I think the board needs to engage the public a little bit better. I know there's been bad press. But if the board had someone to help them, it might be easier to raise funds, might be easier to come up with ideas, might be easier to get volunteers. I've noticed a lot of people raise money very quickly when they engage with social media. And I don't know if the RSVP is the way to go. There might not be people that have that knowledge, but maybe somebody in the high school or somebody at the college might have that knowledge, not necessarily the senior area, but somebody at the college might have that knowledge to impart to the board. Also, I had an idea for a fundraiser. There is a company called Custom Teas that allows you to pick different types of tea to put together and make your own blend of tea, that you can call it the Board of Island Manager tea or Burlington Island tea, and you label it with your own label, and it's inexpensive, and you don't have to buy it to sell it. You can order it, the customer orders it from the website when they want to buy it, or you can buy it to sell it, like at the Wood Street Fair. And they have it so that you could order it. New Jersey is known for cranberries, blueberries, and Burlington is known for ginger. And I think a blueberry, cranberry, ginger tea would be very appropriate for a Burlington Island tea. And it's very inexpensive. And I think that would be something that would be very good for the board to use. And I do have that information for the board. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ms. Maxwell?
Ms. Maxwell. Hi. Hi, I'm here. I'm assuming I should introduce myself, etc. I'm a graduate student at Temple University in landscape architecture and also ecological restoration. I was introduced to Hal and Dawn very sweetly because I was actually looking to do a restoration project on River Island and had done a study of the, I believe it's 48 river islands along the Delaware, and was going to work on the Petty project, but it seems like there's already too many hands in the pot. But also, Burlington Island, I don't know, I've just been extremely excited. Hal's brought me along trips twice. And I'm just extremely excited about what I've learned. And in my project, the trajectory of my project is, well, hold on a minute. Just wanted to thank Hal and Don for letting me onto the island. But I'm kind of here to answer questions. The trajectory of my project is basically the backup of it is basically, I'm really asking kind of what ecosystems are on the island, what ecosystems like can potentially be kickstarted on the island, and then asking, in theory, how do you introduce people into those systems that are potentially really fragile, or not so fragile, but how do you actually have public interaction with whatever is going on the island. So I'm at the kind of very beginning stages of that, and just taking an inventory of what I'm seeing, and then in May, I will be producing a plan for my graduate thesis. And as of right now, the 400 acres is really super huge for me. So I'm actually trying to narrow down my focus area, but I'm interested in, contributing or giving ideas and hearing your ideas. And have felt really gracious talking about with us yesterday. And it's just a really big gift to be out there. So. Also, the other thing that I can do is, if people are in agreement, like the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, there are organizations that would love to parts of the island, just to survey the island and that sort of thing. So I don't know where you all stand on that, but I definitely feel like because of my past, I have a large kind of connection to a lot of environmental groups that can maybe help you guys identify things on the island and that sort of thing. So that's essentially me.
If you guys want, I could close the public session and then we can talk to Carol and have her talk to the group if you have any questions for her. She's been all over the place. Tuesday, I guess, we all must have traveled. She also had a couple people with her. Professor John Monroe, or Dr. John Monroe, and
Trish Kempner.
And who were extremely knowledgeable. It was hard to go 2 feet without getting a veritable tone of what you were looking at and stepping on and smelling, and it was incredible. My brain was going to explode a couple times. I had to break away from the crowd. There's so much information. But if you want, I guess we could close the public session. You can tell us what you need from us and whatever, if you want to do that.
Sure.
So we'll close the public session and move on.
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to do that after old business and new business, since you may be a long time for the people that are attending here?
Old business and new business. Does it matter? I'm sorry, why?
Because it may be an extended discussion with Ms. Maxwell,
Mm-hmm.
and the public is here, and we have to wait for the closed session.
Oh, no, not a closed session.
No,
Oh.
she's gonna
I was
talk to
gonna
us.
keep-
Oh, I thought you said you were going to close the session.
No,
My apologies.
Public portion.
Portion.
You get, she only has 5 minutes.
My
to talk.
apologies.
I understand my confusion.
Nothing.
I was confused. I started waiting this long too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we'll close the public portion, move on to old business, which we did speak about, Carol, although we're talking old and new. She also found some freshwater mussels, which are endangered, shall we say, or are they?
Some of them are endangered and some of them are threatened.
And just tell us or ask us whatever you wish, or any board members, let's have a little dialogue, if you would.
Yeah, I think there's the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary is trying to put together a survey of where these freshwater mussels are, because, and the reason why freshwater mussels are so essentially important is that they, on their own, filter water, 5 gallons of water. Each mussel filters 5 gallons of water per day per Brita filters. So this is kind of a system that's within the Delaware River. It's a natural system, and what's distinct about the Delaware is that it's undammed and it's a large river. So the mussels that are in and around the Delaware are really rare and important. And yeah, I think you guys have, from what I've done in IDing, I think you have probably about 4 to 5 different species, and at least 3 of those are endangered or threatened. And in talking with the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary, their hope is these communities are so kind of like rare and fragile that it's probably best not to broadcast to the larger arena that there's all these freshwater mussels, because a lot of these agencies actually keep this kind of quiet. But you know, the Burlington River Island is really in one of the like richest tidal marsh areas along the Delaware, and just knowing where these mussels are and figuring out how to protect them or how to create this habitat is also really valuable information. Yeah.
And as far as plant species and other things, we were actually all fortunate enough to see on the Bristol coast, the bald eagles and their fledge came out. And sunlight, it's one of the only sunny days this week. It's really nice. But were there anything, could you reflect on what John found inland and what you found soil-wise, or are you still?
I'm still processing a lot of the information. It's going to take me a while to put together. But again, I can definitely open my email up to questions, and vice versa, however. Essentially, in terms of vegetation, a big kind of broad look at a number of different tree species, like various like black tree species, and actually probably a lower amount of shrubs and herbs, which means that the deer on the island actually may in fact be a problem in a way of eating that herb layer and the shrub layer. But I have no idea, kind of, that's like the general thing about what Professor Monroe was saying. And I mean, also there's like really interesting things happening on the manager's side where the initial kind of clearing is, where you have all those grassy areas. That is a really interesting habitat, close to what can be referred to as a serpentine community, which is usually like a plant community that indicates low nutrients, but because it's low nutrients in that area, there's a whole bunch of really unusual and beautiful plants that grow in that community. So I understand that's also part of past, I don't really know how much to talk here, but I feel like I could go on for a million years, but yeah, so there's that, and also most interestingly, you know, those fields, the trees in which where the water right is, you know, those are obviously, as you know from the engravings, like 100+ years old, and from the aerials it looks like for some reason they didn't cut that area down, and I was actually kind of interested as to why that area never got clear cut as opposed to the others. But there are trees in there that are, you know, that's like the heaviest patch of like old growth. And I mentioned some soil samples from there. But I mean, the soil samples, it's really variable, and the habitats in terms of where they're at, in terms of like whether or not they would be considered healthy or not, or that sort of thing. They're really in various states, so I'm just really trying to like get a grasp on what is where.
I do have in my file, I have it's about a 25-page study from the Bucks County Conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
They did an island survey, I guess, of everything that's over there, even part of the river up to the Burlington Bristol Bridge. And I can get you a copy of that. It was done, the last time I think it was done was 1992. So it's a good stack of information, and it goes through everything from soil to water to trees to bushes and thorns, and even talks about the sturgeon in the river and how many they counted, you know, that sort of a thing. And so there was a pretty thorough thing, and I tried to get a hold of them to see if we could possibly get a new survey done, and they just never responded back, you know, one of those kind of things. But it was, I think it was from the Bucks County Conservatory. I think that's what it was, they're conservationists or something like that. But I do have it in my file, I'll get it to you.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, to me, it seems like you have such various communities and such potentially like really rare communities and rare communities like Hemlocks that are.
Well, the one thing that's interesting about the island is, I mean, we're fortunate to have an island the way it is, because from one end of the island to the other, it goes through 100 different communities of grasses, plants, trees, bugs, flowers, from soil that could be made into glass blowing to huge clumps of clay, you know, that came out of the river and stuff like that and everything, which I took a friend of mine over there that she does pottery and everything, and she just couldn't believe the clay, because I'm handing her globs like this, and she said, "You gotta be kidding me, where'd you find that?" I said, "Well, if you stand over on the promenade and look across, you'll see there's a wall of it that's 30 feet high."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What's your email? My email, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of like, for some reason I didn't think I would be presenting tonight, so I kind of apologize, so I don't have kind of a clear presentation. But again, like I said, going through the information that I just got on Tuesday will help me make kind of a clearer presentation to the board. And obviously, any kind of plan information or anything I would hand over to the board in terms of like having knowledge of what's there. My email, best way to get me is the word restore, R-E-S-T-O-R-E, period, resilience, R-E-S-I-L-I-E-N-C-E, @gmail.com.
I think it's favorable, and I appreciate that, that you wanted to get involved in this project. This is what the board needs to branch out with people that have interest in what we're trying to do. In other words, with you know, you probably know 10 or 15 or 20 contacts that would be interested, and each one of us knows a few contacts, somebody that might want to do something. And you know, eventually we can create a group that's going to be worthy of what we like to do with the island. You know, we're limited because half of it's 3 acres and the other half is under the control of Board of Island managers, but there's certain jurisdictions also because we are under the restrictions of the you know, the riparian rights people, and it goes on and on and on. You know, so I know that the Green Acres Commission is very willing to work with us on anything that we would like to do over there. You know, one of those kind of things. So that's good because they would like to see movement.
And I will just say as a side note, Professor John Monroe, he was my professor last year, but he's moved on to, he has his own ecological restoration business. And I would say from like my heart, he's a pretty straightforward guy. He can definitely be grumpy and sometimes in that way kind of like a little bit hard to work with. But I would say that if he's done so much restoration around the area, and really has a real sense of what's there without knowing. So that would be
one of the important things that I try to stress to a lot of people. From you know, I spoke with Jim Kennedy and a few other people that are basically pretty much important in town. Is that we still have 7 artesian wells over there too, and they're freshwater wells. There are 75 people over the island.
Do you know what aquifer they go to?
I have it in a file, but I don't have it with me.
I would love to know.
Unfortunately, they don't go down. They need to go down another 25 feet, according to what I read. But I do have the entire history of the wells, which is a very interesting story. And the only reason that they stopped using the wells because coming across to the old waterworks plant on the back channel, there's an 8-inch pipe. And the city got too big for the 8-inch pipes. So they figured, well, it's time to build a new waterworks plant, so why don't we just suck it out of the river and we'll just connect to the American water supply system. But we still have, we're fortunate enough that we have a gold mine of fresh water that is sitting there waiting for somebody to harvest and sell.
Yeah, and I would love to find out what aquifer it is,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there's information available as to like what the water quality in the aquifer is without even having to like.
I forget what the name of that is, but it's like the super cleanest water, right?
Yeah, and we're fortunate. And what's good about it is what I find is you know, the world is running out of clean water, let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
And your next world wars will be on fresh water, it won't be on oil, it'll be on something you have to drink, because that's the only thing that's gonna keep you alive, you know?
Right.
But we're fortunate enough that the river had to run dry before we would lose our water supply coming off the island, because that's where we get it, it filters through, and it happens to the aquifer too. But I did know that, according to what the paperwork said, they said that although we have 7 wells over there, unfortunately, they weren't dug deep enough, they need to go another 25 feet. Now, I had people over there looking at the wells, and they said, well, the best thing to do is just drill a new well alongside of the old ones. I go, yeah, well, that's easy to say, except we're on an island. Try to talk somebody to come over with drilling equipment on an island and drill a hole for you, you know what I mean? They'll look at you like, forget about it, you know? So.
Well, maybe some shit.
But it's not to say that the other wells couldn't be uncapped again and pumped. They removed all the well heads off of them, I mean, what I mean by the electric pumps. And there used to be a steam suction pump that was over the old waterworks plant, and that's what drove it across under the river, you know? To me, acquiring the old waterworks plant and getting it restored and get the old steam engine running again, and then get all the wells running again, I think it'd be a great educational thing. And you can always bottle the water and sell it. Yeah,
I mean, there's tons of things.
sure.
There's a water, you have a brewery over there.
Yeah.
Something, you know. Offer the tours on a daily basis.
Ms. Maxwell, do you think you can give us a nice presentation by the end of January?
Yeah, of course. I can give you a presentation of what I have so far. So my presentation for my actual plan is not due until May. So that's going to be a much better time for me to actually give you a plan as to what I think should happen. But I can give you kind of a synopsis of what the information I have is already by the end of January. Yeah, and I think it can probably be a little clearer about what my objectives would be, yeah.
Any other questions for Carol? Do you have any others for us?
Just I think what I talked to you about before, Scott, is that the Philadelphia Botanical Society, Bartonia, is, I've talked to one of the editors of the magazine is a professor of mine, and he would obviously love to come over and look at the spring ephemerals, the spring plants. There's also there's birders, there's a group of birders that would love to come out and actually do a bird count. So these are kind of things that, if you guys wanted to pursue, I'd be happy to help make connections to have that happen.
That'd be great. We appreciate your help.
Sure. Yeah, and the mussel survey information already has been logged into the Partnership Delaware for Delaware Estuaries, kind of context of what's going on. And I'm actually trying to get Danielle Krieger out to take a look because it's really exceptional. Yeah.
That's good to hear. Well, thank you. All right, on old business, or Sarah, you want to talk about grants a little?
Sure.
We'll start with grants.
Right. Well, it's lovely now we have our 500 receipts at this bin, and once you guys get a tax audit, then you can apply. There's currently 1, 2, 3 grants that I'm working on. The first is the Green Acres grant. The second is the Burlington County Municipal Parks Development Program grant. Now, those 2 grants have deadlines, and they're not until the summer. Green Acres is July, and Burlington County Municipal Park Development Program is June. So, that's lovely, but I'll have to wait till the summer to apply for those grants. The one that I'm very optimistic about is the William Penn Foundation, because they have a revolving grant. So I can submit that tomorrow, literally. I had it ready to go in July, so the grant application is done. We just need the tax audit. And I wanted to ask you guys, I'm basically writing a proposal, what I'd like to see happen on the island with the money. So if you guys want, I'd love your input. right now for the William Penn Foundation, the title of, actually, it's so silly. The forms are so silly because you can't, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever written grant applications, but they give you a box and you can only write 500 words, up to 500 words. But you can't print it out yourself. So, you know, unless I have my computer in front of me, but I'm focusing on that grant on signage. And then I could apply for out of both. Then I submitted money. I'm asking for $250,000 for a small permaculture farm and an archaeological dig. But if you guys want, you know, I don't know, if you want me to focus on the water, then I'll focus on the water. I did actually, on a side note, I contacted the CFO of World Water that Jim Kennedy gave me. I haven't heard back from him, and I proposed, you know, the purest water on the East Coast, blah, 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 like, let's bottle it. I've sent him 2 emails, I have never heard back from him. But I did talk to John Monroe about it, and he is a funny man to me. I like him. He's such a mad scientist. And it was hard to get a word out of him, and then all of a sudden it was like coming like very quickly, and I was like, oh, let me write this down, you know? Because I said to him about the aquifer, because I've done so much research on it, it's so hard to find, and he said that because of where it's situated, that it's a confluence of aquifers, which probably is why it makes it so pure. But it would be lovely to get someone to test the water so we know, because he actually seemed to think, and he made reference to a spring in Pennsylvania that's on a very pure aquifer. But he seemed to think that because of the health of the Delaware River, and I guess I don't know what the level of toxin is, I know it's much better than it used to be, that it would have permeated the aquifer, so that it actually wouldn't be that pure as we would think it is.
Is that because of fracking, or is that something else?
No, just like osmosis. So I was surprised that he said that.
Am I allowed to comment?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if it's closed session or not, but John has like opinions about things, and he's really great and definitely isn't educated, but it's like a kind of large swath opinion and that sort of thing. So who knows? But I think that about William Penn.
Yeah.
William Penn funded the entire Petty's Island project. Just so you know. So they are in fact looking to projects and things like the Burlington Island. I think they would easily fund that as like a next step project. And I think what would be probably in everyone's best interest is to get an official survey so that you know, and I don't know, again, I'm just kind of talking off the cuff, but so you know where to have the permaculture farm and what the status of the water is and all of these things, and that could actually really fit under $250,000. And I think you could even ask them for more. I mean, they have so much money.
Yeah, official survey.
Yeah, they have so much money coming out of so many different places, and the fact that they've already invested in Petty's,
Yeah.
I could see there being somehow even a connection, like a water connection between Petty's Island and Burlington. And I don't know.
Thank you.
That's my thought.
That's great. Thanks.
Sarah, I have a question. Would it be possible to include, I don't know how you would word it, so like more equipment for the island? Like, but have clear trails and just to, you know, be able to do some of the things that would need to be done?
I think with the William Penn you can, they each have different, like the
Yeah.
Sarah grant, you couldn't ask for any. I think.
I couldn't answer, no.
I'm just curious because I think
No, we can
they're
definitely ask
working
for
with
more.
like
The
bare
county
bones over
grant-
there and.
County grant, you could,
How do you put?
the county.
Well, that's my other question, the county grant, don't we have to have the city's blessing?
Yes,
We have to have the city's blessing for all of it.
we have to start it, you know, we have to start.
How many acres is it on, if it's on our side, we don't need the city's
Oh,
blessing.
so Green Acres we need.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, the Green Acres grant and the Burlington County Municipal Parks grant, the city would probably have to give us their blessing.
But
Yeah,
the
just
William
not-
Penn probably none.
No,
That's what I was asking, I was curious because it's gonna be a little hard to get their
Look, the city
blessing.
passed up this year, didn't get that $250,000 grant because they didn't have a project slated for it when they knew before that we wanted that money. And they could have came to us and said, look, we're not gonna use it this year. Is there something you guys can do with it? And they didn't say a word, and no one even knew that they didn't apply until I read the paper and seen where Burlington City was one of the towns that didn't apply for the $250,000 grant for this year.
Now this year we'll wanna apply and they'll have 50
Yeah, well,
projects
yeah.
lined
Yeah.
up, so we'll be out of luck.
But
Well,
there,
I was
there
gonna
is,
say, I mean, Don and I have talked about compostable toilets and other things, you know, which are all in the line of the signage, which are in the line of safety issues and hygiene issues and all that. And so I guess I would suggest that everybody get their stuff together, because she's gonna have to get it before council, which means we better know what we want, like for Green Acres.
I mean, I'm not personally fussy, I just think that Hal and Don would know best what they need for their work over there.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, she already included the flat bottom boat, which we would definitely need. So I mean, I'm fine with that, I was just curious if there was a way to include,
We need to make sure that whatever we start with, it's going to resolve the mayor's issue of the island being unsafe. Because otherwise, we're gonna be constantly staring at this thing where nobody's allowed over there according to him.
the only problem with that though, Don, is how do you resolve the issue of poison ivy and ticks? I mean, you
Well,
can't.
Those things are beside the point. That was just stuff that they drew out of their hats.
If you address the major issues,
Yeah.
there's
His-
poison everywhere in this stinking United
His major
States.
issue was it'll take 42 minutes to
Right.
find anybody on the island.
Right.
Hal and I have been working on what do you call it, the trail markers every 200 feet, and also a docking facility of some sort over where Kurt and Marie used to have their sailboats. If we can get that stuff in place, then they can't complain, because they would have to be terribly stupid not to be able to look in their computer or look on their map and say, well, somebody fell down and they can't get up, and they're on the red trail by number 12. Well, go get them. You know what I
Here's
mean?
the thing, they're saying 42 minutes. They're saying 42 minutes, but they're talking the furthest point on the island.
They may be.
You could be on the island in 5 minutes.
Yep.
For 42 minutes, that's the furthest spot from Burlington City.
The kids pushing their cable carts across swimming, making it 7 minutes.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
So,
at low tide, it's, you know, there's only a few points of accessibility too.
yeah,
so
we
it's,
don't know, yeah, but you can get to them quick. It's,
Yeah.
the problem is they're going with the furthest point, that's how they're giving you 42 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
They're talking all the way on the Bristol side.
Oh, excuse me. She's gonna-
I would say that within the suitability, within the assessment, that the part of the assessment would actually be a safety assessment for suitability. So you could even like apply for the money to contract out, have those people say like, okay, where would the access routes be, or how could we, I mean, just by saying kind of like suitability for safety, something or like that, within the survey money, that would actually get you totally out of that hole, because then you would actually be able to issue an RFP for the project and get somebody who you trust and know to actually prove to the mayor that it's totally safe and how to do it.
Well, at this point, the mayor asked that we have what is it, emergency management person, help me out.
Okay,
CPR, EMT, thank you.
Two
And,
EMTs, one cop.
Right.
EMTs must have a full bag, a backboard, an AED, a lifeguard, a motorized boat.
Right.
Well, we start adding up everything per hour, per each
Right.
professional, one trip, hour trip over there is like $1,000.
Right, but if you contracted it out, they would have to provide that, right? It wouldn't be your responsibility to get that for them. So if you're getting a suitability study, I think, I'm just saying, like, until in that way, you're contracting for those people to bring all those ridiculous like amenities, right? And you guys don't have to worry about that, and that would just be within your work order.
Well, one of the things is that since the island's divided in half,
Yeah,
we always have, this is another part of the whole problem again. Since the island's divided in half, theoretically under the jurisdiction of the Green Acres Commission. Green Acres doesn't go and say, well, if you're gonna walk in a park, you gotta take a, what do you call it, a guy with defibrillator with you. You know what I mean? It's just, it's the park, go and enjoy yourself.
Well,
If
you
you
know,
fall down, call us, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they have waivers for kayakers
Sure they do,
in Smithville
yeah.
and other places, and, you know, we've gone to the Pine Barrens and all over.
That's right.
There's Green Acres Woods that if you got lost or killed in there,
Yep.
they wouldn't find you for years.
Yeah.
Instead of hunter stumble point.
This is
So it's dangerous anywhere.
Right.
This is always to, this is just to slow down the procedure. The lawyers told me we don't want the liability, you know what I mean? And I found just a couple of weeks ago, while the last meeting we had, I noticed that they were gonna have a canoeing, kayaking thing over at the Smithville Mansion, and there was a waiver you had to sign. So basically, I went on the internet and traced it down. What they have is just a lawyer's written, what would you call it, a generic waiver. In other words, that, you know, nobody is responsible for this. You just sign this and make sure you turn it in. And if you didn't turn it in, it's too bad because you don't get nothing. As long as you turn it in, you still don't get nothing, you know what I mean? But this way, at least anybody that came through the gate or went there, then the city or the area is not liable for whatever.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, but I found it's a generic one, and that's all
Yeah,
I
I
can
found
find.
the same. I looked
Yeah,
at it too.
the typical generic waiver, that's all it is.
So I don't see nothing can really stop us from printing that out and having people
Right.
sign it, right?
But in the interim, I guess, you know, you could look for avenues where there are safety monies or whatever, maybe we can, you know, hire EMTs or whatever, you know, and through the grant monies.
When we originally got involved in this about 3 or 4 years ago, they asked us, what do you need grant money for? And I don't have it with me. Basically, I think the first thing we had on there was a pontoon boat to get back and forth, you know, to move passengers or move passengers and supplies, tractor, whole 9 yards, that sort of thing. And signage for all the trails. You know, that way you can at least make it educational, and it makes it safe, so now people know where you are. You know, Hal and I had planned to put, with the basic 3 different entrances to the island are, which we could consider them the 3 entrances basically. You know, put a 4x4 post in with a plastic or clear plastic or a wooden mailbox on it, and just put the flyer, or put the, you know, the thing that actually is a map that has everything on it, and says, you know, take one. And if you slow down, you pick it up. Well, that's the same thing that all the police departments and everybody has. Now they could easily find you on the island because everybody's on the same page, you know? And I can't figure out any other way to do it. It's a cheap and easy way to do it, you know? But the safety issue is the whole thing that the mayor is complaining about. And I'm sure once that's resolved, then the Green Acres Commission said that when I spoke to them, they said we will gladly work with you to solve this issue. Because the statement we got from him, or he said it's an 11-page document, and he was talking about the signage, the docking, because theoretically most of these things are around the lake where people go to enjoy themselves. And he was willing to get involved, and you were talking about Scott was talking about rest areas, you know, that have a roof over it just in case it rains, and I said, yeah, we do all that stuff.
Wait, Kevin Applewhite's in that?
Yes.
Do you have that? The document?
Yeah, I do have that letter, yeah.
Can I see it, John?
Yeah.
Because I sent him an email today, and I haven't got back a little bit. It was only today. But the thing, and it's quite relevant, with the Green Acres, you have to be able to match it.
Not everything.
The grant that's applicable for us